Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me as we talk about product recommendations, do's and don'ts for high conversions. This is actually the perfect time to be having this conversation because while we're in the midst of the holiday shopping season, and many of you won't have time to implement a lot of changes right now, we're going to be able to gain a lot of insight on the types of data you should start collecting now. So when the new year hits, you can have a head start. My name is Pamela Hazelton. I am a contributing editor to Practical Ecommerce, and I have been working in the fields of online marketing and e-commerce for the past 20 years. Let's get started. We're going to go over 6 key points on the do's and don'ts for high conversions. We're going to talk about the critical data you need to be collecting, because making the right product recommendation starts with collecting the right information. We'll talk about identifying interests and demographics of not only our target audience, but the ones who are actually visiting the online store. They are 2 separate audiences for many of you. We're going to learn how to understand where our shoppers come from. By identifying how they arrived at a site, we can definitely promote the right products to them. We'll go over utilizing viewing and purchase histories of our shoppers and customers, because shoppers are more apt to buy something when it is in line with what they've already researched, browsed, or purchased. We'll discuss email marketing and using that data to trigger the best items for recommendation. And then we'll talk about upselling and cross-selling as a means to increase immediate order amounts and driving up the store's average order values. Before we do anything to create the best product recommendations, we need to collect critical data. Let's talk about a couple of big e-tailers who are doing this very well. First and foremost, Amazon. Amazon has a recommendation engine they use. It's their own proprietary set of algorithms, and they do a fantastic job. In fact, it's reported that Amazon's recommendation engine accounts for 35% of its overall sales. That's significant. Whenever you shop for a product at Amazon, you'll see some other related and recommended products at the bottom of the page. The first set that usually comes up is frequently bought together. That's when they're trying to package a deal for the shopper. It's typically the main product that the shopper is on plus 1 or 2 other products. This is a great way to remind people, hey, if you need A, you may also need B and C, and you can purchase these together. It is a really terrific way to entice people to increase the total value of that particular order. Next up are the actual related products, and sometimes they're called sponsored products. And then the last one is customers who bought this item also bought. Those are not necessarily related items in the sense of them being very similar to the main product, but instead more items that are similar across the line, or they can be accessories or items that accompany other items. But these are all 3 key placements that Amazon uses as part of its recommendation engine. The recommendation engine is a highly sophisticated system, but we can kind of decipher how it works and dummy it down a little bit. First, we're going to start with a table of similar items, which in your store, you probably manually create assignments of this product being related to another product. And then they're going to take another table of purchase histories for all of their customers. And from those 2 tables together, they're going to map customers to the items that they purchased. And then flip that and create a table matching purchased items to customers overall. Then they run an algorithm that's going to identify what the most popular items actually are. In your store, this would be best-selling items. But Amazon goes beyond just what items sell the best. They're relating those best items to the group of customers who actually purchased them. Then they're going to take pairs of popular items, items that are related to each other and are also best-selling items. And then they're going to take those pairs and identify them to the number of customers in common. And from there, it gets really tedious. But in short, they're going to crunch all the numbers and run some filters so that they can provide recommendations in real time to you as you are shopping the online store. Next up is Walgreens. Walgreens goes about this a little bit differently because Walgreens focuses on coupons to try to get their shoppers to buy more. And they also use those purchase histories and coupons to deliver recommendations. Now, Walgreens isn't doing this to get you to just go buy a product at a really great price and maybe buy some other products while you're there. They actually designed their whole coupon program to get you to buy more products that you already purchase. Let's say you buy a Vino lotion. Well, when Walgreens releases a coupon for a Vino lotion that's buy two at regular price and get one free, their goal is not to get you to just buy 3 total products. They're trying to get you to stock up on it. And so they drive all of those coupons so that anytime you go to the store, you're buying more and more and more of the products that you're already purchasing. What's also interesting about Walgreens is their Balance Rewards program is driven in the same manner. They take products that you are typically already buying and offer you additional bonus points for buying more of them right now. And then they take it a step further. While most online stores track everything that customers are purchasing at the online store, Walgreens actually tracks everything through physical locations as well. So if you're a Balance Rewards member and you use your number when you make purchases at a physical Walgreens store, you can actually go into your purchase history at walgreens.com and see everything you've purchased locally as well. So that's an immense amount of data they're collecting to learn what their shoppers want, what they want to buy, what kind of deals they're going to be looking for. So big e-tailers like Amazon and Walgreens are collecting data from your shopping sessions. So every single thing that you do on the website and every time you pull out a credit card, it's keeping track of all of that information. That is imperative for any online store. And that's very easy data to collect. Every system logs this type of activity. But there's some other great data you can be collecting from shoppers as well. On Kohl's site, for example, they have a feature called Find Your True Fit. This is where the shopper inputs his or her height, weight, and age. And then Kohl's takes that information and crunches the number alongside all the size guides from the different manufacturers to determine which size of a particular garment you should be purchasing. This is a premier feature because we all know that apparel that fits is less apt to get returned. And when someone is happy with their purchase, they're more apt to revisit that manufacturer. And Kohl's can take this a step further. Since they're able to decipher the true fit, they can use that to filter out or bring in additional product recommendations, and they can all be products that will fit that particular shopper. User-submitted data doesn't always have to be gained by asking the shopper to fill out fields in a form. You could use icons or graphics to collect information as well. For example, if you had an online store that sold accessories for smartphones, it would be an easy ask for the shopper to click on the image of the phone that he uses. And this is information that you can then log into a system or store along with the customer's profile. And it makes a lot of sense because that shopper wouldn't want to see accessories for a Google Pixel when he uses an iPhone 8. Now, we all want to make sure that we have calls to action strategically placed on pages throughout the website. But there's a lot of other information that we want to make sure that we're tracking as well. For example, What is each shopper clicking on when they go to the homepage of a site? Are they clicking to shop now based on the initial graphic they see at the top? If you're showing shop by brand, which brand are they interacting with first and foremost? Or are they shopping by category? In this example, are they clicking on ski and snow equipment? Or are they clicking on women's clothing? Or are they clicking on kids' clothing? And if they're coming back and they're clicking through to kids' clothing yet again, then we can assume that that person is likely looking for outerwear for kids. And that can help us drive more recommendations, not only during this session, but if it's a repeated action, we can drive it in future sessions as well. And that's why it's so important to use tools that track all the different things that people click on throughout the store. Now, I'm going to admit that I always cringe a little bit when a store owner contacts me and says that they know who their target audience is because that's who they built a product for, or that's who they built the store for. And that's the end of the story. Because you have to realize that even though you have a target audience in your mind, the people you think would benefit the most from your products, you really have to study the people who are actually looking at your products, buying your products, and telling others about your products. When the iPhone was first introduced, there were a lot of stories about how this was going to revolutionize the way business people interacted with other business people. A lot of people saw it as a key business tool. And had Apple hung on to that and embraced that mentality, the iPhone would not be what it is today. Today, it's more than just a phone. For many people, it's their only camera. And there are just as many people using the iPhone for business as they are for personal use and for playing games and for doing social networking. So Apple looked at the big picture and they looked at all the different types of people who were interacting with their products and who were actually buying their products, rather than just focusing on what the business sector was saying about the iPhone. And that's where looking at Google Analytics and Insights comes into play, so that we can truly identify who our primary target audiences are. Now, if it's not already activated, you are going to have to go into Google Analytics and turn on the tracking of demographics. For the site I'm showing you right now, we can see that the majority of people who shop the site are in the age group of 45 to 54. And the second age group is 35 to 44. So we know that we need to make recommendations based on that age group, but this also helps us understand that we might not be making good recommendations for people in the younger age groups, and that could make us miss out on sales. We can also see the gender breakdown in the online store. In this store, it's primarily male, but you might find in your store, you might have thought it was male, maybe it's female. You don't really know until you go and look at this information. Google Analytics interest section gives you some details as to what people are interested in online and what types of products they're most apt to purchase. And they break this down in 3 different sections. Affinity categories are interests that people tend to have when they're on the internet. For example, they like to do value shopping. They're interested in sports. They're interested in news and gossip, or they're interested in do-it-yourself. In market segments cover the types of products they're more apt to purchase. This can be home decor, event tickets, consumer electronics, apparel, so on and so forth. And then there are other categories that Google says are more granular than affinity or in-market. And so they let you identify users that aren't in those other categories. You can actually gain additional information about your potential shoppers through Facebook If you have a Facebook business page, there are some great insights that provide key data about the people you reach on Facebook. Now, just keep in mind that Facebook overall has its own demographics. So the numbers you see here under the age groups and the gender, they aren't going to be directly relative to what you're going to see in Google Analytics. You can look at posts and the reach and engagement to get an idea of what your target audiences are truly interested in seeing when they go to the store. This can be helpful yet again when you're unable to define a shopper when they're going into the store for the first time. For example, when we look at the Facebook insights for a group of posts, we can see what the reach and engagement was on that post. And in this example, we have 2 photo posts and 1 video post. Now, 1 photo post actually did way better at 37,000 reach than the second photo post did at under 4,000 reach. So that tells us if we aren't sure who the shopper is when they come into the store and we have to show them one of these 2 products because these are the prime products to show, we're going to show the one that reached 37,000. And then the third one here on this list was a video post, and that had a reach of 97,000 with a really good engagement of 9,000. So if we got the opportunity to try to engage someone at our online store using video of a product, this would be a great product to recommend. When we take time to collect all of this data, not just from our online store, but from across third-party sites, including social networks, this gives us the ability to determine what types of products we should be recommending to what types of people. But where it really gets helpful is if we know where our shoppers are coming from. Google Analytics can tell us the source and medium used for people to reach the website. For example, if they came through Facebook or through Bing or through a third party's website or through an email newsletter, it can tell us all of this so that we can use it to try to create better product recommendations. But wouldn't it be great if we knew all of this information as somebody came into the site so we could tailor the recommendations on the fly? That's actually possible. The 2 common methods used to determine exactly how people reached the online store in real time is the HTTP refer, which tells us the referring URL, for example, facebook.com, twitter.com, pinterest.com, or some other third-party website. And the other is a tagged URL, which is the kind of URL you would create if you wanted to track everything about an ad. With tagged URLs, you're going to push the campaign source. In our example here, it's an ad on Facebook, the campaign medium, and a campaign name would be, in our case, November Doorbuster. And then we're going to generate an actual campaign URL, and that is a tagged URL. And then we can take it further, create a short link so shoppers have a shorter link to click on and they don't necessarily see all that extra internal data. But unless they're using something that blocks and interrupts the tagged portion of the URL, when they come into the website, that information is all going to be passed through. And then a tool that's included with your shopping cart, or perhaps a third-party tool, is going to take that information and dish out the product recommendations that you want to make. Let's look at the basics of what can be done once we know where somebody came from. You've probably seen banners like this at the top of several different websites or blogs that say, "Welcome Facebook user, welcome Twitter user. Thanks so much for just listening to an interview. Thanks so much for just reading this article. Here's your coupon for 25% off or 50% off." But it doesn't just have to be with a banner. You can actually direct people to specific landing pages, to specific product lines, make specific product recommendations, all based on where they came from. Now, a few minutes ago, we talked about the kind of data that Amazon is collecting, along with other big e-tailers. Amazon is relying heavily on your viewing and purchase histories, and most e-tailers do just that. They take that information and use it to make the best product recommendations. In fact, a lot of these sites actually show you your recently viewed items in case you want to go back and purchase them. As the need for more personalization grows, product recommendations is getting very sophisticated, especially at Amazon. Armed with a massive amounts of data, Amazon continues to use it to its advantage. And it's a good example of all the different things that you can do with the data that you collect. Amazon used to just make a couple of recommendations based on the products that you've purchased. Now it's based on a lot of other things. And they even break it down for you, showing you related products that are relative to items that you've viewed, or items that are inspired by your wish list, or your recent shopping trends. And they'll even break down recommendations to specific categories throughout the store. Amazon's strategy works because shoppers are more apt to buy something when it is in line with what they've already researched, browsed, or purchased. And the best of both worlds comes into play when you can implement a tool that utilizes a customer's demographics and interests along with the referring URL or tagged URL, and then in conjunction with their browse and purchase history. Email marketing data can also be used to help you deliver great product recommendations. It all starts with the way you code your links within the email campaigns themselves. So if the email marketing software you use does not directly create tagged URLs that are read by Google Analytics and by your website, you're going to want to create those URLs yourself and use them on all of the hyperlinks and linked images within the email. Under the source and medium in Google Analytics, you're going to want to look at the number of sessions and the e-commerce rate, the total revenue earned by the email, and you are going to want to click through to see which exact product links generated the most engagement. And the last thing I want to talk about today is the power of upselling and cross-selling to increase immediate order amounts. It's much easier to recommend products when they relate to what's already being purchased. Cross-selling is recommending similar or complementary products based on what the customer is already purchasing. Upselling is trying to get the customer to spend more money than they originally intended by getting a bigger or better model. If you were to go to McDonald's and order a hamburger and they asked if you wanted fries or a shake, that's a cross-sell. If they ask you if you just want to upgrade to a value meal or go to a large fry, that's an upsell. If you're looking to purchase a television at Best Buy, you may be prompted to also purchase an HDMI cable or a TV mount or an Amazon Fire Stick. That is a cross-sell practice. Most stores do this directly on the product page because it is at that moment that the customer is on that page and has that product in mind, and it does not interrupt the checkout process itself. Upselling is an ideal way to get people to spend more money on a superior product. The Dollar Shave Club even does this. They started out with the Humble Twin, which was only $1 a month. But then they also introduced a 4-blade razor, which is $6 a month, and a 6-blade razor, which is $9 a month. Now, they also use one other strategy, and this is a great strategy when making product recommendations in a comparison mode. Most of the time, people would tend to go for the product that's listed in the middle. So when you have 3 levels of products and you put the lowest cost item on the left and the highest cost item on the right and the middle cost item in the center, which is the one that you really want to sell the most, the majority of the time, that's the product that will be picked. Recommending a more expensive television based on features or brand is also another form of upselling. B&H Photography actually uses a quick compare feature to try to upsell users into getting a higher end television. Here, after adding a television to the shopping cart, the shopper is prompted with various accessories that they may or may not need. Putting the accessories in the verification of the shopping cart or on the shopping cart page is a great way to make product recommendations without thoroughly interrupting the checkout process. Dollar Shave Club does make recommendations during the checkout process. Right after someone enters their credit card number, they are offered to purchase optional travel add-ons, which include hair gel and travel shave butter and an extra razor handle. And it's there specifically designed to get them to buy something else right before they click that final button. Ideally, every store can benefit from both cross-selling and upselling, but you have to be strategic on where you make the placements of those recommendations. Typically on the product page, on the shopping cart page, perfectly fine. On the checkout page, you have to be careful, but then again, it really does depend on your target audience. So just as with everything else, you want to make sure that you go back and review your analytics, both in real time as well historically, to determine if the placement of your product recommendations are getting people to buy more and increase order values, or if it is deterring them from making their final purchases. So let's recap. We talked about critical data that needs to be collected. This is the data that all the big e-tailers are collecting, from what pages people are clicking on to everything that they're doing in the website, and it could include user-submitted data as well. We talked about using Google Analytics, Facebook Insights, and even third-party tools to identify interests and demographics and to understand where our shoppers are coming from. We learned that we need to utilize the viewing and purchase histories to make really good product recommendations, and that's because people are more apt to buy things that are in line with purchases they've already made. And we need to analyze our email marketing to determine what products our email recipients are looking for, because they are typically customers as well, and to use that data to trigger the best product recommendations for them. And finally, we talked about upselling and cross-selling to increase immediate order amounts. And hopefully, if we utilize all of these things that we've just learned, we can take the necessary steps to increase overall order values across the store well into next year's holiday shopping season.